If you didn't have this medium, Gary, what would you do with your life? Would you just kind of just fix things and enjoy around your house, or what?
Yeah, no, well, I was always a thinker, so I don't think I would stop thinking. So I might even do it more constructively. I mean, who knows whether this was good or bad for my overall productivity. I think it's good in the sense that I don't think I would have caught on to this idea of having the internal conversation, externally. I mean, I think it does help actually to do this talking thing and then listening to yourself. Um, I think it does help clarify your own ideas. It's almost like using note paper. It's like taking notes and putting them somewhere. Well, when you have to actually say something and construct the idea, then you can see what it's sort of made out of. And you can challenge your own brain by reintroducing yourself to your own ideas and replaying them from a different angle. So it gives you angles, it gives you perspective. But I think it's true for a lot of different kinds of people. I mean, artists, sometimes an artist is best thing an artist can do is go to prison or some other thing will happen to him, and it'll give him a whole new perspective, and the perspective is just so valuable to his to clarifying his technique and to making himself more proficient as an artist. So there are parallels. It's really hard to say what the right technique is until you get the finished product. I mean, you really
Do
don't
you
know whether
think
you're succeeding. You don't know if you're succeeding or failing, until you get to the end of the game.
that's what's so weird about life? I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Butterfly Effect. I mean, it's not the best movie ever, but it had kind of an interesting idea to where the main character can go back in his life and change things, but it always kind of fucks something else up, so he kind of can see what he would do if he did this versus that.
Is that Tom Hanks movie?
Now, Ashton Kutcher was in it.
Who?
Ashton Kutcher.
I don't know who that is. But
There's a few
whatever.
movies that are like that. There's I think Source Code, Groundhog Day. There's a new Tom Cruise movie coming out that flirts with that idea.
Well, Groundhog Day was Bill Murray or something. But
Well,
whatever.
I just mean the idea is kind of interesting. You know, you've talked about this before, the impact you can have, and you always kind of wonder what it is. Like if you didn't exist, how wide would that have an effect in the world?
Yeah, I guess the going back thing is that's always a big mess. You get into that gnarly conundrum. But the idea of having, like, theoretically, what we could have is like really good models of things, computer models. And it'd be really neat if you could look up your life, or that you could put in your life into a computer, and like it would model the weather, you could get it to give you some kind of outlines about probabilities and likelihoods. And so the idea of, like, if they ever came up with a really good computer model where you could actually see what the world will look like if you don't fuck it up, that would be really interesting.
I've always kind of had that as a fantasy myself because I've often wondered what would have happened if I would have did X versus Y or anything like that, and it always is so tempting. That's why I love stuff, movies like that.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, as a sci-fi principle that's actually more coherent to a possibility, the idea of a synthetic intelligence that could model life is more realistic than the idea of a time machine. I mean, we obviously can't go back and try things, but we could if we could synthesize them into a computer program. But it'd have to be one hell of a computer program.
It's basically determinism at this point. Do you think if you could calculate in a way what was going to happen based on some variables, that you could extrapolate into the past?
Well, I think you could, like I said, just kind of, I think there are patterns that we're not seeing. You know what I'm saying? So I think there are lots of algorithms. So they're kind of like shortcuts that are repeated over and over again in terms of patterns that reoccur. Like back to harmonics and frequencies, I think there are certain things that lead to more certain things and certain things that lead to things. And I think those patterns could be discovered by a computer, that was well programmed, that it could do billions of these permutations per second, and you know what I'm saying, it could weed through all of this stuff
Yeah.
to find these little tiny subtle correlations that exist. And so it would have to be it's very complex, but I'm just saying it's theoretically computers have the time to do the, you know, preposterous amount of trial and errors it would take to discover these subtle algorithmic connections that exist between, um, you know, pattern causation.
You just have to find a way to measure it, and that would be one hell of an undertaking.
Well, like I said, when you're talking about complexity, it just gets very complex when you have 7 billion humans, and then you have, the whole environmental circumstances they're interacting in. And yeah, it's just one hell of a big, giant program. But when you think about your own life doesn't happen on that 7 billion level. It happens in a much smaller level. So in a way, a computer has some hope of recognizing the fundamental structure of your life and what the probabilities are for outcomes. I'll see. I'll see. Yeah, I gotta come up with a name. Uh, Evelyn doesn't seem quite right, but we'll see. Well, Eve is a little bit, I don't know. Whatever. I guess I can call old fan. Yeah, no, I guess, yeah, I have to come up with better names somewhere. We all do have kind of sucky names. Ah, wayward guy stretching. Stretching exercises. Yay. That's so test tube baby of him. He really does look like something you buy at the store. Oh yeah, let's buy a wayward doll. It's got a little bobblehead. It smiles and says something. How are you doing today? Yeah.
I don't talk like that, you jackass.
There, well, you're just doing it a little bit. Yeah, you are. There you are. Caught you. Yeah, sunflowers, a little obnoxious. Sunflowers are kind of depressing, actually. I mean, as funny as that seems, I mean, I used to grow sunflowers, just because they're fun to grow. But, they grow these big plants, and you get these really nice sunflower, but it only stays a nice sunflower like for 2 days, and then it starts leaning over, and it gets all kind of gnarly and ugly. And then, the birds attack it and shit. But I mean, it just doesn't do that sunflower thing long enough, and just starts to droop. And it's kind of sad, really, when a sunflower is drooping. It's just kind of a depressing flower then.
It's symbolic for life.
Yeah, it really does. It does do that to me. I mean, it just is kind of funny, that it just kind of, it's kind of a depressing flower in an ironic way. Now you got to plant them every year. But it is, they have amazing plants the way they, you know, it's an awful lot of growth to get out of one little fucking seed. You know, in one season. I mean, it grows a big, gnarly, stalky stem and big leaves. It's a lot of shit to make for one season. But it's like potatoes. You know, potatoes surprise you. You put a potato in the ground and, you know, a bunch of more potatoes grow. $5 for a block of cheese. Outrageous. I used to be a bit of a cheese eater, I have to admit.
Yeah, you like mac and cheese, don't you?
Yeah, well, I used to eat it every fucking night. I ate macaroni and cheese every night for dinner. That's before I had the stroke, right? And once I had the stroke, I said, oh, better change my diet. Yeah, because I guess this is the stroke diet. But yeah, I did. I actually ate macaroni and cheese every night for like 40 years. 30.
40 years.
30 years anyway. Yeah, I'd buy, you know, I just buy it, like I buy a tomato and just cut it up, put it in the macaroni and cheese. So whatever there was that was cheap, I just cut it up, put it in the macaroni and cheese and eat it. That was dinner. Yeah. I just bought a bunch of potatoes because they were cheap, so I bought like 40, 50 pounds of potatoes.
What kind of potatoes?
Kind of roundy, you know, kind of round and lumpy. Yeah, no, they're just like russets or something.
Yeah, russets. They're popular. I have to look
Yeah,
them up all the time.
they were nice and cheap, and they're pretty. You know, they weren't in bad shape. Some, you know, I mean, you know, I baked the big ones and boiled the small ones, and you know, good cheap food.
One thing I hate working at the grocery store is my store has one of those little lobster cages, you know, where they keep all like a whole bunch of lobsters in this small space, and they have their pincers like tied shut, and they're all sitting on top of each other, like eating each other's ass and shit. And it's actually kind of depressing to look at.
Yeah, lobster tanks really are kind of the pits. But they
It's
are.
like every time I see one, I just have to think to myself, like, what if those were people in there, like little tiny people, you know, instead of lobsters? Like there would be an outcry at how unethical it is, but because it's lobsters, it's okay.
There would be an
Yeah,
outcry on how unethical it is, or
you know, the
people
lobsters
saying that
really
they're not human.
they really don't have much of a brain, so they probably aren't noticing a hell of a lot. They're just like, well, okay, I guess it's just kind of crowded. All right, well, crowded. Okay, okay, it's crowded.
Aren't
Well, I
lobsters
don't know
related?
though. I mean, they must feel like pain on some level, right?
Yeah, but I'm just saying that they, generally speaking, are kind of dull-brained. So I'm just saying that they don't like they don't overreact. Like they don't really panic much. You know what I'm saying? They panic when they first get in the environment. You know, they go backwards and flop around and do all this shit. But they acclimate in about 2 minutes, and then they're just like, okay, this is where I live now. So they're almost like a dog. You know what I mean? You take a dog someplace, and it just acclimates no matter where it is. It just says, oh, this is home? Oh, okay. It's home now. You know, it just doesn't care. You know, you say sit, it sits. It says, okay, I can sit here for an hour. You know.
Well, I think the dog would care if you put him in a small environment with a bunch of other dogs and then never
I'm not
fed
saying
them.
a lobster is a dog. That wasn't the intention of my analogy. I was just saying that there are animals that acclimate. And I'm just saying lobsters are very acclimating. So I'm just saying that technically, although I agree with you, I don't like the look of it. I'm just saying, having some experience with them, you know, they're kind of a strange-brained animal. So I used to actually raise crayfish. I didn't raise them, but I had crayfish in my fish tanks just because they were easy to get, and I had a cold water fish tank. And so I would watch crayfish all the time, and they were, you know, they're like little freshwater lobsters, same kind of animal. And yeah, they're just a really they're so they're not like insects. I mean, they're, you know, well, they, you know, they are like insects. I guess they're just like a praying mantis or something. They're just a very mechanical, very routine. You know, they get into the same habit. Oh God, I'm just moving stones, moving stones, moving. You know, they just get into a thing, and that's all they do. You know, and they just, you know. So I'm not saying they don't have a very elaborate consciousness. I just don't think if they have a consciousness, it's not very fancy.
Aren't lobsters related to cockroaches?
Yeah, well, I mean, they're related to all the crustaceans, or you know, they're basically insects, right? I mean, technically. So they're
Yeah, you're
aquatic
probably right.
insects.
You're probably right. It just still bothers me to look at, I guess.
Yeah, well, like I say, the only thing that makes it okay for me is I look at them and I do see that they're kind of calm about the whole thing. So you're just like, well, okay, as long as you're cool, you know, I won't get too upset. But yeah, I mean, if they were sitting there really reaching to get out and stuff, you know, really struggling, well, then you'd feel bad. But they do seem to kind of just acclimate and say, this is where I live now, you know, crowded town.
I know they say they live a long ass time if they're left to their own devices. Like they have some special thing that's able to slow down their aging process.
Well, it's not as slowed down as if they do live, generally speaking, in, you know, cold, dark environments. And I guess, you know, that's just kind of like, you know, they don't have to eat much. You know, they just live on garbage pretty much, you know. And, but yeah, when you see one of those, I mean, we used to always go up to Maine every year. You went up to Canada, and so we, you know, they'd have some like the biggest lobster caught that year, and they have some like 40-pound lobster, and it'd be like this huge giant lobster in a tank, and they were always very interesting to look at. But yeah, it's really old, you know, it'd be like a 50-year-old lobster. But they say they're not very, you know, the really old ones like that aren't very good eating. So, you know, because apparently their flesh, like, you know, it's kind of atrophied, and, you know, they're all bulk and, you know, no real good meat.
It's kind of weird that our life expectancy used to be shorter than that. I mean, on average as a species, that people used to only live until their 40s.
Well, I know, but that's not really true. They live longer than that, and, you know, it's just that more infants died younger. So it's like you still could live to be 70 years old even 300 years ago, but you weren't as likely to live to be 10. You know, it was getting to 10 that was tricky.
And I know like basic stupid infections killed people that, wouldn't even kill you these days.
Well, that's what I mean, that most of the carnage was in the, you know, plague, influenza, you know, that kind of stuff killed an awful lot of people. Bad diet killed a lot of people. You know, a lot of things killed people that, you know, wouldn't kill people today just because, you know, people have so much more choices.
It's interesting though how they were so just it kind of shows you how low humanity can go that people just still live through it and almost don't even think anything of it. I mean, people were still having kids during the Black Death. Like they didn't even think anything of it. Just blows my mind.
Well, they didn't
Well,
have condoms either, you know, so it was a different world. You know, they were, you know, it's a little harder to give it up back then. Um, so I don't know how many of them were deliberately having kids in the first place. But even if they were, um, you know, yeah, I don't know. You know, like I said, you know, it's really it'd be an interesting experiment to run to see what percentage of women who had a child 200 years ago had it on purpose.
Didn't they have like natural abortifacients, like plants and herbs and things they could use like that? for
Yeah,
that
but
purpose.
it's obviously not very pleasant. I mean, obviously these are things that are basically poisons intended to make you sick enough that you'll miscarry. So it's obviously not preferable. Yeah, well, Master Joe seems full of bibbly babbly boo there.
You can't believe in determinism and think that free will is a thing.
I'll just let him go.
Oh, let's see, where were we? I have to get some coffee, I think. What else? Oh, there's a little fish thing again. Say a little seal, I guess it's a seal or something. Yeah, this is, or maybe it's one of them sea otters or something. Oh, the eyes are huge. Okay, well, you know, they make things with big eyes just to make them cute. Like that Flyoria thingy. She has big eyes just to make her look cute. To fool you. All part of this trap they set. Yeah, there certainly are very specific outcomes. There you go. Causes, and then there's effects. And then those become causes, and then those become effects. And then it's causes and then effects.
Yeah.
What do you think is the best definition of free will? Seems indescribable. Okay, free. There's no free. What's free? Free. There's no free. Free is idiotic. So all there is will. And will is just a phenomenon of your primary programming. So whatever your prime directives are, your will probably can be contained somewhere in the definition of your general personality. But it isn't a will. It's just a prime directive of your programming. It's all yours, programs. It's programs. If this, do that. If that, do this. If this, do that. If that, do this. That's all that's going on. Damn right. It's not a very good computer. I'm calling you basically a shitty computer. One that just probably makes farting sounds and such.
We're all just fucking MacBooks walking around.
Yeah, well, the agenda should be relatively simple. First, do no harm. Yeah, even an Atari should be able to figure that game out. First, do no harm. Yeah, I can do that. Okay. It's like shooting
That's not even.
asteroids.
That's not a prime directive at all, because humans cause harm all the time.
Shoot
Just with the purpose of
asteroids
eating.
and do no harm. Yeah. Yeah, it would be good to have a good game of Pong. I mean, yeah, I haven't played like Pong against another person for like decades. Lots of things I miss. I'm really angry right now, but not sure it shows. Yeah, well, you're lying down. Yeah, in the non-angry position. I'm totally relaxed in bed, lying down. Yes, but I'm angry. Yeah, that's not a very good way to show anger. Yeah, you gotta do like lying down, and then you have like your finger, pointed. Just have it somewhere like have your head leaning on your middle finger, something like that. Then that'll let people know you're angry. Oh, she's a woman, right? Almost, mostly. Women don't have to have a reason to be angry. Being a
I'm sure
bitch.
there is a reason.
Sometimes the only thing a woman has to hold on to. No, isn't that something like that? What is that movie from that line? It's sometimes being a bitch is all a woman has to hold on to. Yeah, that's the line. Yeah, I love that movie. I know I shouldn't love that movie, but Dolores Claiborne, I love that fucking. Because I have watched that movie 438 times. I think, probably around there. I love the music in it. I love the whole thing is just so. It's just, it's a wonderful little piece of storytelling. The acting is just so good, and they just kind of go right through it, and you're just like, yeah, this is a fucking movie. I've just lived in places like that. I mean, it's like I've lived on that island. I've known that kind of atmosphere, that kind of cold air feeling near the ocean, and there's so many parts of that movie I so identify with. The old people dying thing, the whole thing. It's all over the place. I'm just so. And then, I like that chick, whatever her name is. I always liked her. She's always kind of a depressing kind of blah blah. Well, not always, but she always kind of plays fucked up chicks. And she has a very interesting face. What's her name? Not Kathy Bates, the other one, the chick. Kathy Bates ain't really a chick. Not really. Yeah, Jennifer, Jason, Leith, whatever. Remember, I hate those three-person name things. But yeah, I always liked her. She was always kind of doable. Yeah, well, she was in a lot of good movies, right? I can't think of any of them, but there really were some good movies. What else was she in that I liked? I don't know, I was just kind of, when I remember as a kid, I was just kind of, not a kid, but you know what I mean, less old. I just kind of had a thing for her. She must have been some other really good, depressing movie. Because I don't know why I would like her unless she was in some other really good, depressing movie. My what event? What, their download is almost complete. I don't know what that is.
It's an anime.
NSA doesn't find out. I don't know what that means either. Oh, whatever. I won't try to understand that. I. Let's see. Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Yeah, that's it too. Yeah, she was one of those people. Yeah, she was in like a lot of stupid movies. I don't think about it, but I don't know. I must have liked them for some reason. It has to be some of the movies she was in that I like, though. It has to be like a depressed chick. I have to look it up, I guess, and then I'll know. She wasn't in Drop Dead Fred. That was whatever her name is, Phoebe Cates or whatever. Now you're talking about Kathy Bates again, so you're not even on the subject, you fucking retards. The one I want to know who was in a good movie was Jennifer Jason Leigh thingy, whatever her name is. She was in some movie when she was kind of young that must have been really depressing because I liked her for some reason. And I only usually like chicks in depressing movies.
Was it Road to Perdition?
Oh yeah, The Hitcher, that'd be a good one. That was a nasty bastard movie. Yeah, so she was really sympathetic in that. She got killed in that movie. Ooh, that was a horrible movie. That whatchamacallit guy, he always plays villains very well, whatever his name is. Kind of Australian guy, whatever the fuck that guy was. What the hell's his name? What was the guy's name in that movie? Yeah, that guy. Yeah, oh, he plays evil really well. Alright, oh, look at that. We lost 5 million people here. What happened? Who the fuck? Who fucked the room? I saw A Wonderful Life for the first time a week ago. Oh. Miracle on 34th Street. Well, you know what? I mean, these are not great movies, but I mean, It's a Wonderful Life is just a great movie because it makes you, it's that whole idea of what would the world be like if, So that's always a great idea as a concept. But I didn't like the movie much. So everybody was kind of gay and weird. But, and then Miracle on 34th Street is, oh, it's just so sappy. But the thing that was kind of amazing about it was, Natalie, that was Natalie Wood's first movie. And she was just such a charming little fucking kid. I mean, just, sometimes it's just kind of funny how people just have it. And I mean, she just had it from start to finish. She grew into the, beautiful woman and all that kind of crap. But I mean, damn. Yeah, I mean, Natalie Wood was in the original Miracle on 34th Street. She's a little kid, little girl. Oh, Harvey was shit. I didn't even understand. I couldn't even watch the movie Harvey. It's just too stupid. So I gave up on it. Anyway, you don't want to get caught talking old fucking movies again, but... Ooh, I don't like army people. Dun, 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 dun. Somebody shoot the army guy. Yeah, that's a good idea. Somebody shoot him. So what are you playing on the guitar, adrenal guy? Probably doesn't know even how to play the guitar. That's why he's making noises. Dun 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 dun. Strum strum bum ba bum. Probably can't play worth shit. Yeah, he just holds it. I just hold the guitar. I like guitar. Guitar's my friend. Well, I do like classical, so that's good.
Hey Gary, I have a quick question. When do you think the last time in your
Yeah, I
life,
really should have taken up some kind of better instrument than stupid
oh, this
trumpet.
is a
I can't
non-sharing
believe I
mic.
played a trumpet. It's got to be the stupidest thing
Non-sharing
in the
mic.
world to play.
DoNotGod. Quick question.
Yes, classical guitar. Yes. Should you look like the kind of chick that knows what a classical guitar sounds like? Somebody can't hear me? I probably can't hear anybody, right? I haven't heard anybody say anything for a while.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Well, does somebody else hear him talking?
Can you hear me,
so
Gary?
I guess it's my computer that has failed
I hear
to
him.
function properly.
Yep.
Yeah, well, they say Army Guy is talking. Does anybody else besides that one person hear Army Guy talking? No, I can't hear Wayward either. Okay, so I will have to reboot. So I'll be back.